I'm going to call this meeting to order. If you'll please rise. Pastor Roy Hagemeyer will be doing the invocation, and I've asked Supervisor Lingenfelter to lead us in the pledge.
Good morning. Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this day that you have provided, and I lift up this Board of Supervisors and all of the staff that is here this morning, Lord, that they would make amazing decisions, that they would listen to the public as people speak, that you would lead and guide all of their thoughts and their movements in this meeting today, Lord, and you just bless this time that we have together. Thank you for the ability that we can gather in a public place and do this. Thank you, Lord Jesus. In your precious name we pray. Amen.
Okay. I need a motion and action to call for an executive session to be held August 5th, 2024 at 9 a.m. for discussion and consultation with legal counsel. So moved. Second. I have a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Committee and/or legislative reports. Supervisor Johnson.
Nothing, Madam.
Supervisor Gould.
Nothing today, Madam Chairman.
It's Monday and there's a board meeting, so.
I think that's maybe Jamie Kelly. Jamie Kelly, can you mute your phone, please? Okay, never mind. Supervisor Lingenfelter, anything this morning?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of points, and I hope I don't want to embarrass you too much, Laura, but Laura Scubel, our clerk of the board, she's going to be traveling today. Her son, Tarek Scubel, plays for the Detroit Tigers and was selected to be an all-star pitcher during the 2024 All-Star Game for the American League. So we certainly wish Tarek all the best. And the only other thing I'd like to mention this morning, Madam Chairman, is the gentleman, Corey Comparatori, I think is how you say his name, that was there with his family at the Trump rally and shielded his family and perished. A very, very sad day for our country, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Supervisor Bishop?
No report.
And I have nothing this morning either. On to Rural Water Advocacy update from Jamie Kelly from the Mojave County Water Authority. Miss Kelly, are you with us?
I am with you. I was just having a bit of a difficulty unmuting my microphone.
Okay. Yeah, we know.
And
this.
I will show in. Good morning, Madam Chair, Supervisors. I serve as General Counsel for Mojave County Water Authority and work on water issues in Mojave County. My focus is primarily Colorado River water, but in the past couple of years, I've spent a lot of time working on groundwater issues with Supervisor Lingenfelter and Nick Ponder, Mojave County's water lobbyist. Before I provide my report, I'd like to take the opportunity to commend the board on its leadership and advocacy on water issues these past 6 years or so. Your efforts have yielded positive benefits for Mojave County and its residents. Mojave County's Recharge Basin program has been used as an example for local actions to be taken to help aquifers. So thank you for your leadership. Now for my report, some of which may be old news. First, I would like to mention the informal statewide coalition that started in 2020 when it was apparent that the non-AMA groundwater committee of the Governor's Water and Augmentation and Innovation Council was not going to accomplish much. That small group evolved with Supervisor Lingenfelter and Nick Ponder's efforts into a group of elected officials, water professionals, and concerned citizens residing in rural northern, western, and southeastern Arizona. That group, as a collective, as well as the supervisors apart from that group, put the spotlight on groundwater issues in rural Arizona. Second, The quest for groundwater management tools for rural Arizona, started by our very own Regina Cobb, continue. The legislation has evolved since she first introduced her rural groundwater management areas. I believe Nick Ponder has regularly briefed you on the evolution of the legislation as it has occurred. For this year, although it is disappointing management tools were not provided by legislation, the coalitions continue to meet. A few meetings are scheduled for this week, but unfortunately vacation schedules are making it difficult for the key negotiators to meet in person. And it remains my understanding that if the coalitions make progress, a special session remains as an option for this year. And that would conclude my report. If I can answer any questions, I would be happy to.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Ms. Kelly? You do? Supervisor Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mojave County spent almost $1.5 million on water issues, and you talk about how the legislature has been doing all these good things, and we have nothing to show for it. When we control the House and the Senate, can you tell me why we couldn't get a bill passed this year?
Madam Chair, Supervisor Johnson, because the parties involved in the negotiation were unable to agree on all of the terms, the initial bill introduced, Senate Bill 1221, as it was introduced into the Senate, did not address the needs of Mojave County. The House engrossed as amended version on the last day of the session was closer to being what Mojave County needs, but it still fell short of what Mojave County needs by way of a tool.
When we control both houses, how can we not get a bill? That's what I'm not understanding. Seems like all we do is spend money, and then I see what they gave up water rights to Buckeye from La Paz.
Madam Chair, Supervisor Johnson, there's actually two issues there. The difficulty is that one particular legislature and a few that view the issue the same as she does are opposed to any type of management tool. They're just simply opposed to it completely. What was proposed would be the original version of Senate Bill 1221 would be harmful to Mojave County and the city of Kingman. The second part of your issue relative to taking water out of La Paz County to Central Arizona, I assume you are referring to the Harquahala Transfer Basin. There are 3 basins in La Paz County, some of which overlap into Maricopa County, that were designated as transfer basins in the 1980 Groundwater Management Act. Although then Representative Cobb attempted to obtain changes to those, that situation in the transfer basin, she was wholly unsuccessful.
Well, it seems to me that water issues have always been bipartisan. And so I'm not understanding, even if we have some on the Republican side that say, I don't like this, and we have some on the Dem side that say, I don't like this, there should be enough people with common sense at the legislature to pass a bill. Seems like you're just bleeding the beast here and taking all of our money. Not you, but company that we're hired. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Madam
thank
Chair.
you. Yes, Supervisor Langenfelter.
First of all, I want to say I really appreciate Attorney Jamie Kelly's efforts for Mojave County Water Authority, which Mojave County is a member with all of our cities. I appreciate the advocacy of our cities, both on the river and City of Kingman on rural groundwater. We've all been working very closely together for a long time on this stuff. And I'll be a little more specific. Jamie did a good job of being politically correct. I'm not as politically correct. So the reason that we haven't gotten anything done in a Republican-controlled environment is because of the committee chairs on the House Natural Resources Committee and the Senate Natural Resources Committee Representative Cobb introduced her first rural groundwater legislation in 2016, and every single year thereafter, our LD5/LD30 legislators introduced bills, and they led the charge on this. And we never got a hearing, because every single time it was introduced into Gail Griffin's committee, she never gave it even a courtesy of one discussion, one hearing, so they all died. That's why, if we had actually had a hearing and some dialogue, then we might have a bill. But as a committee chair, you don't have to hear a bill, and we've never had that. We've never had even one hearing, which is unfortunate. So today, we got the INA, and it's not the greatest tool because it's geographic. It's not volumetric. All it does is limit the number of acres that you can use for corporate agriculture from Saudi Arabia and UAE and California, but it's not volumetric. So you can pump as much as you want. But it's one of only two tools that currently exist in state law, and we don't want the other tool. We don't want an AMA, which transfers all of the control down to Phoenix, which is why we're trying for this new third tool. I think today we're closer than we ever have been. Water should be nonpartisan. I don't understand why people are trying to make it partisan. You can't argue about anything political if you don't have water to drink. And all of our businesses, all of our industries, all of our homes use water. It's foundational. So I think today we're closer than we ever have been. I think a lot of that is due to the advocacy and the efforts of Jamie Kelly and everybody else from Mojave County, from a conservative standpoint, that's advocating for this. And hopefully a special session does occur, we get something done, or if not, next session. Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I guess that's what concerns me when they talk about they keep giving it to Gail Griffin's committee. I know how the legislature works. If somebody blocks their way, they just put it in another committee or don't give it to them. So I don't understand why all these years we blame it on poor Gail Griffin when they could just take it away from her real easily.
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Supervisor Johnson, I wish they would take it away from her. When you look at the whole state, and this may not be a popular opinion, but when you look at the whole state and the groundwater basins in the state, Gail Griffin's district has a groundwater deficit right now of 100,000 acre feet a year. That's more than the city of Tucson uses every year for water. So to put Gail Griffin, and this is an inflammatory statement, but I'm sorry I have to say it, to put her in charge of rural long-term best interest for groundwater is like putting Colonel Sanders in charge of the long-term best interest of chickens. It hasn't worked. They have, go down there. They have wells going dry. They have huge land fissures and land subsidence, and all the worst things is happening right there. Yet she's in charge of the groundwater. So I don't understand that.
Thank you.
Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The dynamics of the legislature are interesting. When I was a senator, of the 30 legislative districts, all but 6 had a portion of Maricopa County in them. Now even the district that we're in has a portion of Maricopa County in it. It's just a problem on the way that these districts are assigned. So essentially, not so much on groundwater, but on Colorado River water, the odds are stacked against us on that, clearly. But bear in mind, the Senate President and the Speaker of the House assign committee chairmanships. So if you have some control over that, you control who chairs that committee. There's also the black arts of Senate rules, where you can strike bills around chairman that won't hear a bill, which is done all the time. And that's the real reason that of a strike everything amendment is to get around a committee chairman. It's not to deceive the public. It's to get around a committee chairman and bring it directly to the other body. But there's ways they could get around it. You just have to have the will to do it. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Anyone else? Nothing else? Well, thank you, Ms. Kelly. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Okay, County Manager's report.
Good morning, Madam Chair and board members. I have a couple of items just to highlight some positive progress, starting with, as you know, the board approved ARPA funding for automating the board action form process. And in the previous board meetings, we told you that staff was engaged in planning and preparation to transition from paper to electronic. Today, I am happy to report that we have fully transitioned. For this board meeting today, every agenda item was initiated, routed for review, and approved electronically. So, no more paper forms being printed and carried from one department or various departments to the clerk of the board. With that said, it was efficient. It was well completed. And to that end, I would really like to thank you, the Board of Supervisors, for the funding, and recognize all the departments that participated and made it happen, including the clerk of the board and staff, her staff, the IT staff that was instrumental in making it happen, and every department who initiated a board action form, all of them for their commitment to efficiency and excellence to achieve the successful transition. Additionally, Madam Chair and board members, with support also from the clerk of the board, staff, and IT staff, county resolutions and county agreements are now available electronically and can be searched electronically as well. No more sorting through paper files and such. It's available on the clerk of the board website, and this is truly a game changer for all of us, including the board members, staff, and executive assistants who can swiftly research these documents and have access to them. So we are making progress one step at a time. We're doing it with your vision, with your support, and we're very grateful to implementing efficiency where we can. It truly changes how we approach it. It takes a lot less time. It's far more efficient, fewer typos, and so on. So thank you for the time, and happy to answer any question you may have.
Any questions for Mr. Elters? Okay, we'll move on. I'm going to open the call to public. A public body may make an open call to the public during a public meeting subject to reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions to allow individuals to address the public body on any issues within the jurisdiction of the public body. All right, first up.
Did you want the presentation for the ESS electronic time system by financial services presentation?
Do I want it now? I would rather not.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yep, that's fine.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Shea, Andrew Shea. Benjamin, after Andrew, Benjamin Peterson, and then Kenny Works. If you can come down so we could keep this moving. Can you say your name and address for the public record, please?
So my name is Andrew Shea. My address is 2400 Acoma Drive. I didn't expect to come here today, but I was in my backyard on a Thursday, and I was watching the fire. And I want to first thank the first responders, of the fire department, of the hot shots, because they got out there and they protected all of the structure. A couple months ago, I made a investment, and I purchased land on a Cherokee Avenue. So when you go south of Southern, there are 15 like parcels of land that are empty, and I own like one of those parcels. And you could get there from either Cheyenne, or you can get to there between, it's like running like iron, like, or like one of those like roads before the water tower. So yesterday I went to Cheyenne and like a Cherokee, and I safely walked to check out on my property. And my property, it was burnt down to the ground. So all my trees, all my plants, everything is just like a toothpick. And the wind, it was blowing north. So it was not blowing like west. If it was blowing like west, there's the El Paso, like natural, like the gas, like easement. There's all the power lines. Well, there's the power like stations. I mean, I'm not here to speculate what caused the fire, but common sense is at the southernmost part of the burn area, I saw like pallets. There were piles of pallets, and there was liquor everywhere. Like all the cans, they looked like new. So if this was negligence, and someone was having a party, and someone was having a fire, we need to hold these individuals accountable, because what saved all the human life in all the houses was the wind, how it went like the north. But Friday, Saturday, that wind, it went west. So I'm just thankful that it didn't go west. And then also it's a recreation area up there, so we might need to put up signs that just tell people like a common sense, or Smokey the bear, or just not to have anything like that up there.
Thank you, Mr. Shea. Benjamin Peterson, then Kenny Works, and after Mr. Works, Chuck DeShazer.
Madam Chair, Supervisors, in 2021, I came in here and I talked about the hundreds of millions of dollars in lost equity that's happening at Santa Fe Ranch. And in that time, not only has nothing happened, there's been retaliation. And what I'm seeing in this body is a perjury of the public record. You allow those Santa Fe Ranch people to come in here and give outlandishly false statements on the public record to influence votes. This has happened again and again and again. There's $500 million cover-up. It's costing this county $1 million a year at a minimum in taxes, and no one seems to care about this. Okay? I don't know. I've done everything I can through administrative process to have a dialogue here to reach some sort of, amicable conclusion. I'm not getting a response. Vote rigging, and then John Sanchez died. He's my best friend. He died out at Santa Fe Ranch because the ambulance was stuck in the sand in a FEMA flood zone that's being illegally graded by the POA. Now, I've been watching the testimony, since at least 2021 that this has been going on. And you just let those guys run amok. They're steamrolling everybody's property rights. There's a no-growth agenda. We're not being represented here. I'm not going to make this personal, but I think there's, some cozy relationships that need to be dealt with. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. And I am filing criminal complaints because I'm not getting a response. You guys have oaths to the Constitution and you're not holding them. It's perjury. You're committing perjury by not upholding your duty for petitions for redress of grievance, due process. There was what looked to me to be collusion when I put an item up for an agenda. No notice from the county. The HOA comes in concert, defames me as a radical with no pushback from any of you. I know you can do better than this, okay? I'm just going to keep working at the state level since there's no common sense solution here. I just wanted to put this on the public record. Thank you.
Kenny Works, Chuck DeShazer, and then Wayne Hollins.
Kenny Works, Chuck, Arizona. I'm here to talk about the upcoming elections. The enemy will recognize you even if you prefer not to recognize your enemy, as Donald Trump found out Saturday. Merely treading water through electoral victories has proven to be the recipe and course to enslavement. I think what we've been treading for the last 3.5 years has been something other than water. Bravo Sierra comes to mind. A meeting of National Security Council employees 2 weeks into the Trump administration, the unidentified military staffer who was seated directly in front of Camarilla and Misko confirmed hearing them talk about toppling Trump. After Flynn briefed the staff about what America First foreign policy means, Camarilla turned to Misko and commented, "We need to take him out," the staffer recalled, and Misko replied, "Yeah, we need to do everything we can to take out the president." Added the military detailee who spoke on condition of anonymity, "By taking him out, they meant removing him from office by any means necessary. They were triggered by Trump's and Flynn's vision for the world. This was the first all-hands staff meeting where they got to see Trump's national security team, and they were huffing and puffing throughout the briefing. Any time Flynn said something they didn't like about America First." We've been experiencing other than America First for the last 3.5 years. One side seeks power, the other only campaigns, as Supervisor Johnson said. We've got campaigning. We've got, we keep electing people to, I elect Republicans to go there and do everything they can to prevent the Democrats' agenda any way possible. To me, that's the most important portion of my representatives and our senators. I think that anything other than that is probably lying. The enemy has to be stopped. They have to be opposed. As Senator Borelli said, it's rural against urban here. That's what we're dealing with. That's what the problems we're having with the water situation. And they have to be stopped. I'm sending Republicans. I always vote for Republicans to go in there and stop the enemy. Very seldom do they actually seem to be dedicated to that mission. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. DeShazer, Wayne Hollins, and then Pastor Roy Hagemeyer.
Hi, I'm Chuck DeShazer from Topak. You all seen me before. I'd like to say first off that I'll be so glad when these primaries are over, because I've seen such despicable acts going on with one thing I saw the other day was a newspaper article about ARPA funds buying UTV up in Oatman. I have no idea what that has to do with COVID in the least, but Gene Bishop seemed to be stroking Gilbert Smaby's ego about he was the one that got it done somehow, even though he's the chief building official going to the fire department. I don't know what that has to do at all with ARPA funds being used for a UTV. And then I'm reading on the internet how there seems to be Gilbert has some sort of permit that he's letting Vince in Dolan Springs know, and then suddenly there's a meet and greet at Vince's new supermarket or something out in Dolan Springs. It seems to me it's almost like buying votes here, and these people aren't even in my district. And then I go over to some sort of a debate at the field house, which to me is again another joke, because we got cheated into buying that when they didn't even have the land to start with, and we haven't used it for any state championships that I'm aware of. But I went over there for Scotty and Mr. Letman, and the third candidate didn't even show up. And half the questions at this debate seemed to be indicating that Mr. Letman was going to be bringing back trophies from this room that he doesn't seem to have ever showed up in, because I went up to him and said, "Do you know who I am? I'm not hard to miss in a crowd. And he thought I was someplace from Golden Valley and had no idea what my issues might be, which it's easy enough to see on TV. But they were asking about getting extra property for the field house for parking, and they were talking about all kinds of what is the supervisor going to get from the Board of Supervisors as far as possibly incorporating Fort Mojave and other parts of the county. I'm guessing over water issues that they've got. Anybody that knows what I'm talking about, good luck to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hollins, Pastor Roy Hagemeyer, and then Armin Stang.
Wayne Hollins, Golden Valley. Just want to speak a little bit on our Public Lands and Recreation Committee. It almost seems like it's the people on there have been stacked to only agree with how we want to see things here in Mojave County and not consider the other factors. Talking about the solar farms, we had a moratorium, then we cut down the area that we could put them in, but we did nothing to change how they were installed so they wasn't making the land a single use. But we already have them that's been allowed here, but in the future we have nothing to keep it from being a single use. And it's pretty simple. Just research agrivoltaics. You raise the things, and I've talked to you this before, you can grow things underneath there, you can have crops, you can have orchards, you could have grazing, all that stuff on there, and that's multiple use things. You could more land for the wildlife. Also, it's a good place to do your water harvesting and improving the soil underneath them instead of sterilizing it, so things grow underneath there, which the evapotranspiration of the plant will go up, condense on the bottom of the panels, fall back down, water what's underneath there, cool the panels so they produce more electricity. And then we have the project in Red Lakes where they want to build the power thing and with the 2 lakes and stuff. And the main thing on that was the evaporation. Well, evaporation is the first step in the rain cycle. So if you don't have the evaporation, the other 6 or 7 steps don't matter. You got to have step 1 before you can get to step 2 to 3 and 4 and 5 and on. So we need to consider those things, not just say we don't like green energy, we don't like this, we don't like that. Well, what in the hell do we like? Can't we figure out and have a discussion anyway and figure out something that will work? Seems like we're always trying to not do things instead of how we can do things. And I'm not saying I'm for the plant or for the solar or anything like that, but if we're going to have them, why don't we have it put in there, regulations and ordinances or whatever it takes to have it installed how we want it and not be dictated by the company who's building those things, telling us what they're going to put in, and then we're just stuck with it. I just think we need to pay more attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Pastor Roy, Armin Stang, and then Scotty McClure.
Good morning, Supervisors. Pastor Roy Hagemeyer, 2090 Royal Court, Mojave Valley, Arizona. This morning I'm here to fully implore you to reject and deny the request of the rezone of the parcel in Mojave Valley that was requested by EPCO. It's located in a agricultural center in Mojave County. We need to stay with the current plan that's in effect today because we, the people of Mojave Valley, do not want this peaker plant in our yard. It is literally a mile from my house. The peaker plant's going to be owned and operated by EPCO, not MEC. EPCO has said by their own admission the power will go where they choose for the power to go. So we get the pollution, we get the danger, we get the noise, and whatever else comes with this, and we will receive little to no benefit from this proposed peaker plant. MEC over the past months has done a lot of deception. They've mailed out a flyer, a big flyer, to all of their customers, asking them to say yes. There's not an option on their flyer to say no. And so it shouldn't be up to the customers. It should be up to the residents where this plant's going to be. Organizations like Bullhead's El Matadors and the politicians and the elites in Bullhead City have come out in support of this plant. If they want it, let's build it in Bullhead City, maybe even in Laughlin Ranch. I would like to see you to do one thing, maybe send it back to planning and zoning and let them have another look at it when the full board is there. Next, I would like to see you eliminate the contract with High Ground Lobbying Firm. They are no friend of Mojave County's. They are not a friend of any freedom-loving American. They support ranked choice voting. God help us for even doing business with this organization. And one more issue that has come to light is the dam proposal in the Meadview area. This proposal will drain all of the precious water out of that basin and will not replace it. If you need help on this, please call Representative John Gillette. He is all over this, and maybe he should be the one in charge of water in the House of Representatives. Water is our most precious resource, and in Arizona, we don't have an awful lot of it. Nevada is taking every bit that they can get, continue to build without any plan of doing anything with it. We need to stand against any plan that sucks the water out of our ground and won't replenish it. Please listen to the people and what they're saying in regard to all of these critical issues. And remember, you five work for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. Armin Stang, and Scotty McClure, and then Sean Meisner.
Good morning, Supervisors. Thank you for having me here. I'm in Stang, Fort Mojave, Arizona. Got a short video here for you, and that went away. Sorry, I screwed up. Where is it? This one here. My neighbor is shooting fireworks. You have a proclamation, no fireworks in Mojave County. I don't know why he's shooting off fireworks on 4th of July. That's 3431 South Cavalry Road. He comes to his property at 8:45, gets a couple beers, shoots off fireworks, leaves at 10 o'clock. After I went out there, called the Sheriff's Department. And I haven't seen anything done to him. This is ridiculous. He's shooting the fireworks right at a house. He doesn't have enough money to pay for the damage. On January 6th, the neighbor from, that's another one, from 4234 Weiss Road shoots off fireworks at 10 o'clock at night. Let me turn this off. This is... shoots fireworks at other houses. And we have a no burn, no fireworks, nothing. I think the county attorney's office should write all the property owners what are on video a notice for violation of county code. I'm more than happy to provide the addresses, the videos, and everything for prosecution. And then the other thing is, I get to hear Bullhead wants to annex Fort Mojave. Is it because they're running out of water? I don't know, but they ain't getting my water, I guarantee you that. And I have a problem with Mojave Electric inviting certain people and looking at properties where they are in my supervisor's district, and he wasn't invited. Is it because he votes no on Mojave Electric, or is it because they call him supervisor? No, I like them. No taxes, no pickup plant. If you want a pickup plant, build it in Bullhead next to Cementex. Have all the firefighters what are loving the pickup plant for the revenue, move next to it and live there. Not my problem. Don't build it in my neighborhood. Thank you.
Scotty McClure, then Sean Meisner, and then Jennifer Esposito.
Scotty from Bullhead. I have one question here. Where were the drones? Sonny Borelli, you should be asking that because our governor is not going to ask it. Where were the drones? And you know what I'm talking about. Now, I got a phone call from Caroline. She was up here last meeting and for her very first time, and it's not going to be her last. She's on my team to get me elected, my Facebook team, and she's in the Young Republicans Club in Bullhead. Well, she went to the Young Republicans Club in Phoenix to attend their meeting. She got selected as a delegate to go to Michigan. She's going to be on the floor tonight, and the next night, and the next night, and the next night. So congratulations for our Bullhead, Mojave Valley, Fort Mojave, and Mojave County delegate in the Young Republicans Club. Pastor Roy, you need to meet this girl, and we'll make the arrangements to do that. I had the dumbest question I ever asked her. I said, how are we going to recognize you in the floor? You know how they scan the floor? So I'll be doing red, white, and blue. And I said, yeah, along with 3,000 other people. So I asked the dumbest question that I have ever asked a woman. What color dress are you going to have on? You know, here's 4 or 5 days I'm asking. There ain't no woman in the world knows what she's going to be wearing in 4 or 5 days. So I knew better. That's the dumbest question I've ever asked a woman. So anyway, she's on my Facebook team. She's going to be Facebooking us. In fact, she's listening right now to us, or to me anyway. She's going to be faxing stuff to us, Facebooking it, and we're going to put it on my Facebook page. So you want to see a little bit of a different view than what CBS is going to do, come and visit my Facebook page. Scotty for District 2 Supervisor.commies. You'll find me. Anyway, so I got back to how are we going to recognize you? She'll be holding this. She don't know how far she's going to get it in the building. She knows she's going to be stopped through several locations. But if you see this up there like that, she wants to get it at least up to the building, in front there and do that. She's not getting this in the building. But if you ever see this on TV, and this little arm, she's pretty short, that's her right here, Carolyn. But anyway, this is going there. This is not a political sign. Well, it is. Yeah, I mean, come on. Trump's going to want it. Yeah. But anyway, watch for my sign. I think I'm going to leave it there because I've got some sorry things to say. And just get this election over with. Well, that kind of made me shut up anyway.
Hello, Chairman, Board. Sean Meisner, District 1 candidate. Hello, everybody at home. I just wanted to say thank you to one of the 3 people that was involved in the most heinous personal attack in Mojave County history. One has apologized, and I accepted her apology. To start with my little speech here, why do people not like our government? You know what the number 1 answer is? Corruption. Taking money from someone you just approved as an elected official for people is corrupt, immoral, shows bad character, raises doubt with every decision that they have made. They are compromised. Travis Lingenfelter did this. Took a $2,325 donation, I have it right up there, from the master planner of the biggest development in Mojave County history, Project Entrada. We can refuse donations that have conflict of interest. Any county employee would have been fired. It's time elected officials are held to the same standards. This is nonsense. You work for the people, not yourself. Real public servants would never take that money. We aren't called self-servants for a reason. Freedom isn't free. Life isn't easy right now, and you know, I learned something when I visited Colorado City on the 4th of July celebration. It was a slap in the face, in a good way. It really was, in a great way. Actually, these people have led pretty sheltered lives. They were so excited with patriotism like you'd never seen before, or haven't seen in a very long time. Not a kid on a phone, kids climbing trees. Every single person was wearing red, white, and blue. It was truly inspiring to meet so many people motivated with love for their country. Do you know why? I'll tell you why. It's because they just got their freedom yesterday, and they're afraid they can lose it tomorrow. This is the way we all have to be. This is such a serious time in our country, and we need leaders that will lead and stand up and be for the people. So if you want somebody that's going to be for you, everybody at home, you vote Meisner, District 1 Supervisor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Greg Beffert. Now, Wendy Beffert had signed up, but she asked if she can yield her time to her husband, and I said I will grant 5 minutes altogether. Oh, you want? Well, I would like you first. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I put your thing. I'm sorry, Jennifer. I'm sorry. I put it down.
Jennifer Esposito, candidate for District 4 County Supervisor. It's quite all right. I have the patience of a saint. I can wait forever to say what I need to say in 3 minutes. I'm retired. I've got time. When you're on the campaign trail, people reach out to you with a lot of their concerns. They want to know where you stand on things or what you're going to do about something. And oftentimes those things aren't really within your purview as a county supervisor. For instance, most of the complaints that I get are related to the sheriff's department, like the recent murder trial for a lady named Sally Menard up in Meadview, where I spoke to a witness at the trial who told me that the man was acquitted for lack of evidence, and she said that it came out that there was that the investigator took evidence home and burned it and destroyed evidence. And if that's true, that's something that needs to be looked at and investigated. But the second thing that I get a lot of people ask me about is roads. And roads are something that the county can do something about. And so one gentleman reached out to me, and he pointed out that he said on Stockton Hill, north of Kingman, which technically divides both District 1 and District 4, that the roads were paved about a year ago, and they have yet to put the center line down the middle of the road. And that, you know, I've traveled that road. It is a high traffic road. And so, you know, perhaps one of the supervisors could take a look at seeing when that is on the schedule. I would ask mine, but she doesn't like me very much since I ran against her as a writing candidate and got a lot of support in that endeavor. But, you know, that is an issue with the roads, and that is something that comes up a lot. The other thing I want to talk about briefly is personnel and why this board is not doing what I consider its job and letting Mr. Elters basically run the county. I make no disparagement to the woman that you appointed to the Board of Health, but the way this really should work is that Mr. Elters should bring like the top 3 or the top 5 candidates to the board, and the board itself should interview these candidates in executive session, and it should be the board who decides which one is the most qualified. Now, maybe the lady you appointed is the most qualified, but we'll never know because you didn't make that decision. Mr. Elters did. Again, Mr. Holtry was appointed to fill Mr. Walsh's position, and again, there was no options really presented. Since both Mr. Smaby, Mr. Walsh, and Mr. Holtry are the subject of a civil lawsuit regarding their actions as county employees, and you knew that 6 months ago when you were served with a notice of claim, maybe you shouldn't have put Mr. Holtry in there. I don't know. But what I'm saying is stop treating these people like tenured college professors who can just move up the food chain if they wait around long enough and do your job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Beffert? Again, can you put the clock at 5 minutes?
Supervisors, for the record, Greg Beffert. I want to acknowledge the extra time that Supervisor Angus afforded me today to speak. This goes to the last meeting, again, where it took me 10 months to get here, but I finally got an acknowledgement that we overstepped, that mistakes were made. I got a public apology from one of the supervisors for her behavior. This finally got to the root of the problem here, and that is the illegitimate authority or the lack of authority that you had during COVID-19 to do the things that the majority of the board did, excluding Supervisor Gould. And I want to talk to that today. What prompted this was, Supervisor Gould raised the issue. What authority does the health director have over that the board doesn't grant it? Then began the discussion about that authority. And he says they have none. And he's correct. They have none during that time, other than what the board gave them. And the majority of the board gave them authority that they didn't have the right to delegate. The president didn't have the right to delegate the authority to the governors. The governors didn't have the right to delegate it to the health departments, and all the way down the road. So we got to the discussion about what authority did we have here, and Mr. Esplin, Mr. Elters agreed, they have no authority other than ones that you guys give them. Mr. Esplin raised some issues about, there's some statutory issues. When you enter into contracts with the State Department of Health for money, you are obligated to follow those instructions. That's what he was referring to. Otherwise, the proclamations that he referenced to the governor has no legal basis. There's no lawful basis for it. Proclamations are not law, and he knows it. But his job, again, was not to protect the constitutional rights of the citizens. It was to protect this board and the bureaucracy here. What I want to get to is Supervisor Johnson's comments. They were, again, probably the most disturbing to me as a former law enforcement professional. And I'm reading verbatim here. This is Supervisor Johnson. This is directed to the attorney. Am I to understand the fact that we had no say in what was really done during COVID? This was passed down from the feds in the state. We are a, quote, arm of the state. I thought you were a representative of the constituents of Mojave County. You were taking orders from the president, who had no legitimate authority, the governor, who had none. You were an order follower. You know what order followers offer up? The Nuremberg defense. It was no more legitimate then than it is now. I was just following orders. This picture here describes this democratic, I call it the democratic Republican statist cycle of passing the buck. And what you see here is this stuff now. Here, pointing fingers. When ultimately what it comes down to is there was no legitimate authority. There's only two types, legitimate and illegitimate. Our Constitution was based on the principles of natural law, objective morality. You took an oath to uphold the Constitution, the principles of natural objective morality, not moral relativism based on the whims of some legislatures who had no authority. You took an oath, and you violated that oath by your actions. 3 of you did. 3 of you who took those oaths, you had no authority. You see up here, don't blame me, blame Congress. I don't make the laws, I just enforce them. The soldier, I'm just following orders. The citizen who says, I just voted for the lesser of two evils, which is why I'm, one of only several people here in Mojave County up here holding you accountable for your actions during that time. And now some of you want to retire, move on. I acknowledge, Supervisor Bishop acknowledged that, we made mistakes. Let's do take Mr. Befford's suggestion, do an after-action report. Find out what we did right, what we did wrong, and what authority we acted under, because we don't seem to know. He can't explain it, because you had no authority to violate moral law, natural law.
Thank you.
I'll be back.
Okay, and lastly, Miss Becky Foster.
Good morning, board members, Mr. Esplin, Mr. Elters. I'm Becky Foster. I live in Kingman. I've been a resident. I moved to Kingman in 1970. I'm a voter and I'm a taxpayer. I'd like to address the board today regarding county vehicle use. I assume that the county, at least partially, uses their GPA data and county vehicles to provide a defense in case of an accident. As a citizen, I'm interested in knowing how these vehicles are used, and if they are used, as the county policy and window stickers indicate, for official use only. I strongly suggest that you designate someone to monitor the use of the county vehicles. Recently, I reviewed GPS records of the county assessor. What I found, while not shocking to me, is that the vehicle is frequently used for personal as well as political use. To say nothing of excessive speeding at 10 plus miles per hour in excess of the posted speed limits. Small things like driving through a drive-through, going to lunch, something that's on the way to official meetings, that kind of thing, they weren't taken into account by me. It was the more egregious instances that I'm concerned with. Given the apparent budget issues that Mojave County has, it would be wise, in addition to the mild measures that you would have taken on travel, to review the records of all county vehicles, and if warranted, charge the current mileage to employees who use county vehicles for personal or political use. Now, I'm not an attorney, but I would think that the political use would possibly constitute a violation of law. Proper use of vehicles outweighs any inconvenience. And the bottom line is when employees drive recklessly, the county's liable for any accident that occurs. I realize employees must pass a class given by the county. As a former county supervisor, I drove a county vehicle on occasion, and I know all the rules. In order to operate a county vehicle, they take the class, but that's not enough. You need to monitor these activities. It's called supervision. And the other thing I would like to say, I'm in opposition to the peaker plant in Mojave Valley. And as for county fireworks, I lived in Las Vegas for a number of years. And this is nothing compared to Las Vegas. It was like living in Afghanistan 2 weeks before the 4th of July, on the 4th of July, 2 or 3 weeks after the 4th of July. Guns being fired, fireworks, commercial fireworks in the neighborhoods. But I agree that something needs to be done about that too. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to close the call to public. We're going to go on to presentations. I'm going to ask Susan McAlpine to come up. We're having a presentation by her for the Wild Horse and Burro National Advisory Board. Susan, your picture is falling down in front. I'm going to do a little intro about Susan. Susan McAlpine was first appointed to the Federal Wild Horse and Burro Advisory Board by the Trump administration. She has recently been reappointed for a second term and is the first Mojave County citizen ever appointed to the advisory board, and that is a big deal. So welcome.
Thank you. I'd like to I'd like to thank you all for the recommendations that you provided for my reappointment to the Wild Horse and Burro Advisory Board, and to affirm to this board that I am here as a citizen of Mojave County and not necessarily representing the BLM Wild Horse and Burro Board today. What I'd like you to know is that board volunteers are experts. Okay, see the picture here? Good, thank you. Board volunteers are experts, and they're in the area of natural resources, livestock and wildlife management, wild horse and burro, research, advocacy, and veterinary medicine. We serve 3-year terms, and our role is to make recommendations to the BLM and the Forest Service with regard to wild horse and burro programs. As of March 2024, there are approximately 82,384 wild horses and wild burros on the range in 10 southwestern states, with 64,382 in BLM holding. That's 146,676 animals with a price tag of $154.8 million. The board met in December and focused our recommendations on evaluating the health of the environment, the horses, burros, and rulemaking and regulatory processes. Our first recommendation was that BLM and Forest Service should evaluate a number of horses and burros placed in private care to determine if changes are needed in their placement programs. We also strongly recommended that BLM and the Forest Service should study the ecosystem health and population stabilization. The Forest Service must advocate for funded multi-year budget line items to support their wild horse and burro programs. And that the BLM Foundation should serve as a funding source for off-range holding costs rather than U.S. citizens. In December, I observed the devastation of the Lake Pleasant Burro Management Area. From February to April, they removed 397 burros. Road collisions are a huge issue down there. This baby's mom was killed on the road near Lake Pleasant, and obviously the issue, as in Bullhead City, is that these animals often access our public roads. In March, I observed part of the Black Mountain Gather. From January to March, over 1,150 burros were gathered, 1,102 removed, and 48 returned to the range without fertility control. As of June 3rd, 2024, BLM reports an estimated 820 Black Mountain burros, 1,094 Havasu burros, and 454 Big Sandy burros. Arizona has the largest number of burros in the nation at 5,898, with Nevada following with 4,685. There are no gathers planned for 24 in our area. I also just returned from a BLM contracted wild horse pasture in Oklahoma. The property owner and his staff are doing a fabulous job keeping unadoptable BLM wild horses safe, healthy, and wild at less cost than keeping them in holding. There are over 2,000 BLM unadoptable horses there, and the herds are separated into gelding and mare herds. The endless green pastures, rolling hills, many lakes, and small groups of wild horses roaming freely is really a sight to see. It's horse heaven for sure. Sadly, we in the Southwest know that drought and destruction of natural habitat provides a very different reality for both our horses and our wild burros here in Mojave County. As a taxpayer and BLM-appointed wild horse and burro advocate, pasture maintenance plans like you just saw and fertility control are the most effective use of taxpayer funds to reach a true resolution to the overpopulation of wild horses and burros on public lands. So thank you for the invitation to present some information today, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. McAlpine? Supervisor Gould?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mrs. McAlpine, those are lovely pictures that you showed, but I believe a majority of the animals taken off the range don't live in those pristine conditions. Is that true?
The animals on the range, about 60% of them live in BLM pastures. I want to make sure I get my 60-40 right. About 60% of them live on contracted pastures. 40% of them live, and I think I had the picture, in BLM holding facilities. So as a equine advocate, I lean towards the pastures, which are much less expensive than taking a wild animal, keeping it in a controlled area at taxpayer expense. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I thought it was worse than 40%, though. That was my impression. And
That
I
was-
have a BLM burro.
Yeah.
Now I have a full that was out of that burro. I had a BLM burro before, and I had a Mustang before also. The other question, I'm curious how many of those animals that they take off the range end up getting adopted? Used to go to the county fair and they would, BLM would be there at the county fair adopting out Mustangs and burros.
With regard to the burros go down to Florence, they get processed, and because of the work of John Hall, who is the director there, they're pretty much placed almost immediately. I mean, they don't stay in pastures for 10 years throughout the country. They're in great demand. I don't have the actual number of horses who are adopted, because I looked for the number of horses that were still on the range for you and that were in still on the range and in pastures. So I don't have that exact number, but it's nowhere near the number that they take off every year.
Sure. Do you know, do they still run the Wrangler program at the prison in Florence? Training
Yes, they
BLM
do.
Mustangs?
They're still training inmates on a voluntary basis. Part of the problem that John Hall has down there is obviously they're short-term inmates, so they come in, they serve their time, they go out. I've been down there 3 different times. They do a phenomenal job down there.
Good.
They really do.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Supervisor Lingenfelter.
I just want to say thank you for the presentation today. Thank you for your service, and I'm glad that you are a part of this advisory board. It is very important. And also thank you for your service on the Community College District Governing Board. The boroughs are definitely an issue here, and look forward to working with you on that. I was just down in Wiki up the other day, and I saw a few of those big sandy burros, so appreciate it.
Good. Any other questions?
Anything? No?
Thank you all very much.
Susan, I just have one more question. Is the BLM still offering money to people to adopt the burros?
They still are. We have a lot of complaints that the advisory board gets about it. That's part of why we made the recommendations that we made about assessing placement of horses and burros, because there have been complaints about people playing the system, getting paid for horses, bringing them to slaughter, not so much with the burros. None of that has been proven. We have asked, as you know, the board looks at these complaints and asks the questions. So there hasn't been any direct evidence. There is a rumor floating around that our burros are sent to Mexico and processed for meat. That is not true. Categorically, it is not true.
Thank you, and thank you for your service. You've done an exemplary job, and you send us these reports, and I just want to personally thank you.
And thank you all very much for what you do.
Okay, now we have another presentation, an overview of the ESS electronic time entry system by financial services. Mr. Mornian.
Good morning, Chairman and board members. So I'll try and keep this as brief as possible, but before I get into an overview of the process we've been through over the last year and a half or so, I want to give some credit where credit is due. This conversion process has been two departments, primarily financial services and IT, that have driven the successful conversion. First of all, Ray Eads, he's a programmer analyst in the IT department. I'm not sure if he was able to make it to the meeting. Ray, if you're here, please stand up. Doesn't look like it, but Ray was instrumental in designing some custom reports for us within the technological resources that we have. Without those reports, we would not have been able to have a successful conversion. And then Carissa Eves, she's the newest accounting manager in my office. She's been with us about 7 months. She stepped into that role about midway through the conversion process, so not an easy thing to do. She's done an exemplary job. And then last but not least, another member of the financial services staff who couldn't be here because this is a payroll week, so he's busy importing all of the electronic time data. But Ray Gonzalez, he's really been the driving force behind this project, drawing on over 20 years of payroll experience. I think he's probably spoken to almost everybody in the county over the last year and a half at some point or another regarding electronic time entry. So just a big thank you to those three individuals. We couldn't have done it without you. So just a little bit of history. This timeline just kind of shows this issue was originally brought up at a board meeting in 2013 by Supervisor Johnson. He's been advocating for this for ever since then. There was some initial research done by OMB back in 2013 that was more focused on actual time clocks, like electronic time clocks that you'd punch in and punch out of. And over time, the scope shifted more towards web-based solution as technology changed. We were looking for something that would allow employees to enter time 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, regardless of where they were, just to fit the diverse needs of our county employment pool. And so some milestones over the last year and a half or so. Basically started testing in October of 2022, developing some resources. We started the actual conversion process about 6 months later in March of 2023, and we completed it successfully. All county employees are on ESS, electronic time entry, as of about a month ago, and so that is a big deal. It was a long time coming. Just so that the board knows some metrics here, it was a 16-month conversion period. We had an awful lot of training sessions, so as each department was rolled out onto this software, Ray and Carissa primarily met with them, had face-to-face classroom time with them, developed resources that they could use. It was over 50 training sessions, almost 100 hours of instruction. And we did take a phased approach over the year and a half or so, 11 different phases, bringing anywhere from 2 to 5 departments live onto the system at a time. And as I said, about a month ago, all 1,200 plus employees in the county are on ESS. And I kind of touched on this before, but ESS definitely has some advantages over our old paper time cards. First of all, we're saving money because we're not using paper. But employees, like I said, they can enter their time from any location, any time of day. So, departments like the sheriff's office where they work, 24 hours a day, they have the ability to do that. It's allowed us to expedite our payroll processing schedule in finance, which is a big deal, especially on weeks where we have holidays. Fewer errors, better data, better reporting capabilities. All of these are good things. And so with that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions? Anyone? Nothing? Supervisor Lienfelter?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks for the presentation. I just want to say thank you to all of the staff that were involved in this efficiency project. I think it's going to really benefit the county.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Okay, anyone else? Well, I echo Supervisor Lienfelter. Thank you very much for all the time and effort put in, and I hope that it will be successful. Thank you.
You're most welcome. Thank you for your time.
Okay, we're off to the Board of Supervisors consent agenda, items 5 through 22. The following items listed under consent agenda will be considered as a group and acted upon by one motion with no separate discussion of said items unless a board member so requests. Supervisor Johnson. What's wrong? Okay. Okay. Supervisor Gould.
Nothing today, Madam Chairman.
Supervisor Lingenfelter.
Nothing this morning, Madam Chair.
Supervisor Bishop.
Nothing.
Nothing. Nothing from me. So I need a motion to approve consent agenda items 5 through 22.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 23, I'm going to open the public hearing. Discussion and possible action to approve the amendment to the Mojave County Ordinance 2021-03, the Building Code Ordinance. I do have someone signed up, Mr. DeShazer.
Chuck DeShazer from Topok, Arizona. We've been doing this for about 9 months now, from what I can tell, from September of last year, to trying to get all the language correct. We've done it with 2020-7 as far as getting it all ironed out. 2021-3, it's finally being ironed out. My problem with it is looking through the background material, you still have a conflict between 30-day and 15-day between the two laws, and they're both going to be listed on the notice and order in the abatement paperwork as far as I can tell. And so you're going to probably end up with another lawsuit besides mine, which I'm not going to speak on, but you know, you're looking at when two laws all you have to do is change it to 15 days on the 2021-3 to conform to the 2020-7, and everything should work out. I don't know why you're using two laws, but that's what my concerns are.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to this item? Anyone? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. I believe Mr. Holtree is on the line to speak on this.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, thank you. This item is, we heard this item back in April of 2024. We approved the changes that made the appeal process for any dangerous structures that it would go to the Board of Supervisors instead of going to the Building Code Advisory Board. This item today is just to re-clarify that and just make some minor changes as far as some of the wording is concerned, just to make sure that it's completely clear that any dangerous structure appeals go to the Board of Supervisors. Any other decisions made by the chief building official would go to that board, the Building Code Advisory Board, but any dangerous structures goes straight to the Board of Supervisors. And I'm here for any questions that you may have.
Any questions? Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Director Holtree, Mr. DeShazer spoke of a conflict in the timing for those appeals. Is that conflict in the new ordinance?
Madam Chair, Supervisor Gould, I believe what Mr. DeShazer is referring to is the state statute with the nuisance abatements. That is reflected in the 2020-07 ordinance. This one is directly out of the building code, which I believe does not fall under that state statute, the nuisance statute.
So it's for on abatements or on nuisances?
The 30 days that I believe Mr. DeShazer is referring to is from the state statute. It's that deals with nuisances, and we abate those nuisances through the 2020-07. That's mostly dealt with in our zoning enforcement. So our code enforcement that goes out and they see junk and debris, though they're using the 2020-07 ordinance that has that 30-day time frame set by state statute. I believe in this ordinance, it does not rely on that state statute for nuisances. And so this is for an appeal. If somebody wants to appeal the decision of the chief building official on whether or not the structure is dangerous, we put in the ordinance that they have 30 days to get that to the Board of Supervisors.
So what's the 15-day timing?
I'm not familiar with the 15-day timing that he's referring.
Madam Chairman, can we have Mr.
Yes.
Shazer come up
Yes.
and elaborate on the 15-day timing, please?
Yes, if you look at the 2020-7, Mr. Esplin should have it available. It has a 15-day timeline to appeal to the clerk of the board to bring it to the Board of Supervisors for an appeal, and again, 15 days for the lien process on the abatement in 2020-7. Whereas in 2021-3, you haven't had, as far as I know, a 30-day appeals process to bring it to the Building Code Advisory Board. It's been written down as 35 days. It's been written down as 30 days. But in the 2020-7, that is a current ordinance, you have 15 days or you lose all your rights to appeal it to any board. Whereas you now have in the wording on this one for 2021-3, a 30-day appeal process. So when somebody gets their notice and order, they're going to, if they miss that 15-day deadline, now you're in conflict again. And maybe Mr. Esplin can, expand on that.
Madam Chair, would you like me to respond? So you have two statutes, 11-268, and I believe, don't quote me, I'm doing it by memory. Thank you.
Me too.
11-268 and 11-815, I believe. And under 11-268, you have 2020-07. Under 11-815, you have 2021-03. And so what Mr. DeShazer is saying is you have different time frames for filing the appeal. Under the first route of 11-268 and 2020-07, it's 15 days.
15 days.
And then under 11-815 and 2021-03, it's 30 days. Well, and I was just taking notes from what you were saying previously. You said, well, if both are going to be listed, well, then what we can do is we don't list both. If you do one under a zoning violation, that can go under 2020-07 and 11-268. Okay. And then if one is a violation of the building code, then you do it under 2021-03, 11-815. And that's the simple solution right there. Now, I reserve the right to argue that you could cite both, but I understand there is complications with that because then there would be two different routes. I see that.
And when they're sending out a notice and order, as far as I can tell at this time, both 2020-7 and 2021-3 are listed at the top of the page as these are the laws that we're citing you under for the abatement of a structure. And the abatement of a structure could all be done under 2020-7.
Madam Chair.
Potentially. Let me just finish if I could, Scott.
Scott wants to chime in on this.
Sure.
Scott?
I was just going to say that the current process is that any dangerous structure does go through the 2021-03 ordinance, and we do not list both ordinances, but I'll defer to Ryan what he was going to mention.
No, I don't need to add any more. Unless you have any questions.
Yes.
Which was my original complaint, is that you're taking away the authority of the Board of Supervisors. And you're putting this into a committee of building contractors that are regulated by the building department.
And if I may respond, Chairman and Supervisor Gould, I mean, that's why we made this change so that there would be ultimately appeal to the Board of Supervisors. This has that so that it can be if I remember right,
Yeah, that
the
changed.
final decision of the Mojave County Board may be appealed. So it's changed so that it will go to the Board of Supervisors.
Of both of the ordinances.
Yeah, both
Whether
ordinances.
They cite under the one. Okay.
Oh yeah. I mean, we respect that. We want that, and that's why we did exactly what you asked for. This is to clarify. This is to clarify from the last board meeting. Hey, chief building official decisions. This is the process to do it, and so that's why we're clarifying this to make it very clear for everybody.
Anything else, Supervisor Gould? Supervisor Lingenfelter, did you want to say something?
Madam Chair, no, Supervisor Gould asked the same questions I was going to ask, and it's been addressed, so.
Okay, Supervisor Bishop, anything? Okay, what's the pleasure of the board?
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Number 24, discussion possible action to adopt the FY 2025 to 29 5-year capital improvement road program. Mr. Latosky? Yeah. What? You want to speak on this?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Staff brings this FY 25 to 29 5-year capital improvement road program to the board for their consideration and approval. This road program or capital program is unconstrained. It represents projects that have been previously programmed by the Transportation Commission or the board as projects of interest should financial resources become available to carry those out. Public Works has long operated as a maintenance and operations outfit. Our priority is on the maintenance of our paved and unpaved road assets, and they number about 2,100 miles. There have been 4 changes to the program in front of you. 3 projects have been added. These include 3 federally funded projects with a county share of 0 to about 5.6%. Those are largely the capital projects that are indeed pursued. The federally funded ones where the county is shares a very nominal cost share. There was one project removed, and that was the widening of Thompson Avenue between Norrie and State Route 66. Over the course of time, and I'm speaking of well over 10 years, there has been private development that has contributed to, or at least will be planning to contribute to, the improvement of Thompson Avenue. There is a governing traffic impact analysis that lays out some of these future developments, some of which may be carried out in the near future. And as a result of this, the county's original vision for some widening of Thompson Avenue does not quite align anymore with the ongoing development and potential developer share of these types of improvements. So staff would recommend to remove that Thompson Avenue project. But other than that, the program is status quo from last year.
Okay, thank you. I believe someone in the audience wants to say something. Mr. Steve Robinson, come on down. State your name and your address, please.
Stephen Robinson, Golden Valley. First, I support approval of the SERP. It's a very valuable tool. I like the fact that Mr. Latosky has found government financing or support from federal, state, or of other sources to help take care of the roads. I have a few concerns. One, there's been a number of projects that were not ever listed on the SERP that were paved and declared county highways. Recently, about 5 years ago, to Pete's Road, which is a dead end up against the Black Mountains, doesn't attach to any county, state, or federal highway yet. It was either leapfrogged or became a project or was paved without it even being declared on the SERP. Another one was good old Legend Ranch Road, which wasn't even a county highway when they approved the funding, and so it certainly wasn't on the SERP. And I think there should be a rule that says things need to be on the SERP before the roads can be paved. The third one goes back a dozen years ago up in Desert Hills area. A whole series of roads were declared county highways and were paved within a year's time without ever being put on the SERP. The interesting thing about it, they were all mobile home park roads. And I don't imagine mobile home park roads ever being considered county highways. Now, there's one other concern. There's 40 miles of roads in southeast Golden Valley that were declared county highways back in 1966. It was following up to the Duval Mine project, and all the roads, east, west, north, south, from 68 to Shinnerup were declared county highways, and that's never been revoked. One of those roads is Ship, which is just at the south end of the urban growth area, the suburban development area. That would, if that was taken from a cow path on some sections and made, and developed as a county highway and paved, it would relieve the traffic on 68. Another section of road that should be declared a county highway and then subsequently paved and put on the SERP is the 2 miles of Chino Road from Laguna to Egar. The rest of Chino is a county highway from the east end to Laguna. It would give people a chance to stay off Highway 68 and help the people in Golden Valley. But other than that, I just wish you would put on the rules that you can't do any paving of county highways and that you shouldn't allow them to be leapfrogged over other roads. Thank you.
Thank you very much. What is the pleasure of the board on this one?
Chairman Angus.
Oh, yes, Supervisor
Motion
Bishop.
to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and we're motion to discuss.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Director Latosky, I see that Vanderslice Road is now a $90 million project.
Madam Chair, Supervisor Gould, that is correct. I went through and examined the Vanderslice Road DCR, which was published in 2008, and what I did is I applied an escalator based on the Federal Highway Administration Highway Project Cost Index. It's an index that Federal Highways updates every quarter, and I derived the $90 million estimate by taking the original, and please don't quote me, it's about $42 million originally in 2008, and escalated that up to the present based on the Federal Highways.
That project is not on the state's 20-year plan any longer?
Supervisor Gould, that is very unfortunate. Yes, it is not on the plan, and that's really unfortunate. We had tremendous momentum there in the late 2000s, and I think it was really the recession. In fact, I must add that we were this close, literally this close to getting a state ballot measure to fund Vanderslice Road through a 1 cent state sales tax. I think it was supposed to be on the 2008 election as a referendum, but it didn't make. We were close.
Interesting. It's be a good project.
Motion second. Anyone else? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 25, discussion possible action to approve the following exceptions to general fund hiring freeze. Motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 26, direct staff to move forward submitting legislative proposal to amend ARS 11-255 to the County Supervisors Association.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 27, discussion possible action, approve the funding agreement with Mojave Valley Fire District for the payment of $1,012,000 in America Rescue Plan Act funds for the creation of a P25 simulcast radio infrastructure project.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 28, this was our executive session. We received legal advice, and I understand there's no action to be taken.
Yes.
And number 29, discussion possible action to approve and accept the grant funding agreement with Mojave County Procurement for Opioid Settlement Funds in the amount of $99,841. I I have a little question about that. So which fund is this out of? Because there's a lot now of these opioid funds, so which one is this?
Chairman Angus, this is Luke Morning. I can answer that. So, do you mean which settlement participant is this being paid out of?
Yeah,
Or being
and
awarded
so
out
how
of?
did it end up here? Well, you know, so we got the money, and then is this part of our the what is it? We get about $1 million a year. Is that part of this?
Chairman Angus, so this is one of the grants awarded by the Public Health Department for fiscal 25. So these are the monies that the county is receiving from the various settlement participants on an annual basis. And the purpose of this particular item is primarily just to establish a budget for this grant award for the Lake Havasu City Justice Court.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Any second.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And I make a motion that we support the American League winning the All-Star game.